Okay, so my name is Philip Martin, and I'm the co-owner of Philip Martin Gallery in Los Angeles with my partner, Portia Hine. And I hope you've had a chance to meet her either at the gallery or at the fairs. I am delighted, absolutely delighted to have an opportunity to have a conversation with Jackie Gendel on the subject of her solo show, The Architect's Daughters, which is on view at the gallery for about 2 more weeks. It's a spectacular show, and it's a real thrill to work with Jackie, who I've known for a very long time and admired her work. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks. How about you?
I'm doing great. It's awesome to be doing this. Thanks so much for everyone for coming by. So, Jackie, would you like to talk a little bit about the title Architect's Daughters, or talk about some goals that you had for the show, or anything that sparks your mind?
Sure. It's funny because I don't generally tend to do anything that is self-referential as much as the title of the show is. My dad is an architect.
Uh,
But in trying to think of a title, I was driving and I was just thinking about the the bodies and figures in this body of work that are very much being revealed or taken over, or you don't know kind of which direction it's coming, but they seem to be part of a city. And it just came to my mind, and it's plural. There's not, I don't have a sister, so it's semi-autobiographical, I suppose. But I like that. I grew up in postmodernism, and half the novels I wrote, the lead character, the hero, was named the same as the author, and there's this confusion about what is fiction and what is reality, and kind of a doubt that's cast. And I like how it implies a narrative that is both real and not real.
well, is it too early to bring up um, the French critic Paul Villay?
Oh, Paul Barilio, from the quote.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And your comment, or the thing that he said, that I work in staircases. He's an interesting figure because he seems very interested in talking about how architecture and technology and certain structures, with the combination of speed and power, and then he goes in to talk about the military and all kinds of different aspects of kind of the figuration of modern contemporary life.
Yeah, I'm by in no means a Virilio expert. I've read a little bit, but so
I don't think anybody thinks
nobody quote
the
me
whole
here.
point
But
is that
I do. I mean,
that
I was
we are where
taken.
we
I
are.
was taken by that quote
Yeah.
because he was talking about, well, there's a lot of staircases as a theme in my work, and
True.
I think in that particular quote he was kind of referring to not when he writes, not having a like kind of valuing implicit rather than explicit, and allowing yourself to wander and find meaning, and not about explanation. And I clearly believe that in my own paintings, that I learned more from them than I'm trying to maybe explain things.
You want to talk a little bit more about what it means to learn from a painting versus try to explain things?
Sure. I mean, I guess in my practice, it's very much like I see painting as a surface for contradiction, of surface for play, of at times I try to have a goal in mind, but I often veer from it, and there's miscues and repetition, and mistakes and surprises and all the sorts of slips. And I guess I allow all sorts of art histories to come in, and like I really embrace being lost and finding my way out. And a lot of times, like, the painting resolves kind of in a moment of recognition, where I see something happening that I wouldn't have ever thought of myself. And I love that. But
Yeah.
there, a lot of them are really long processes. Occasionally I have one that is a shorter painting, but a lot of times I have a long relationship with them.
So when you, I mean, I think that's an interesting aspect of why that quote kind of resonates with me is I think, we are this very specific moment right now, and we don't need to talk about politics per se, but I do think that there's this thing that happens, and I think we're starting to get a handle on that, that when humans think they understand and know something, they can really uh get crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you have certain groups that are in the position to get crazy, um, or this is what it seems like Varia's saying, like perhaps you have the ability to move fast, so then you really do start breaking things. What is that? And I think the point that I perhaps hear you making, that for you, the art object, in the same way perhaps for your viewer, it's this lever to see things that you actually would not have imagined possible,
Mhm.
which is the true open discovery that art can do if you're comfortable getting to that spot and actually start to develop some kind of way to respond to those inputs that you start seeing from the painting. In that sense, it's almost like the way science asks you to have a hypothesis, but to be honest to the data and
Yeah.
not try to, you just got to be like, well, this is what the data says. And does
Right.
that resonate at all?
It does. I mean, it's interesting to me. I mean, I know, about Virilio, like the entire, him talking a lot about how technology really stems from war, and this kind of, and cities do too. Like there wouldn't be cities without war because of
Mhm.
technology. And yeah, I don't know. Like to me, it's just everything is loaded with meaning, and it's often really contradictory and used, the same thing is used by different people to give completely opposite, and sort of opposite ideologies. It's like, look at haircuts,
Yeah.
like um I think it's a really good example. But yeah, and I feel like in my paintings, I feel like just after many, many years of being in love with painting, I try to like use kind of all that potent language um to create new ways of putting them together, I guess, and to me it's like always just the most fun hearing how other people see them, and how they read them. But yeah, so I think that there's just like meaning everywhere. And how it gets put together um becomes like really um I don't know, like I like the making images that I believe like can be read, and in some extent, like I think people who have looked at a lot of art um see that in them, but I also think that there's a lot of people who don't, who also have, you know see just as much. So I don't know, like there's something that's like really obvious about the implicity as well. Like I like it that something that feels really implicit and loaded to me also can be understood.
In
Um,
what way do the works feel implicit and loaded?
uh, I guess what I'm saying is that it's the same idea of not wanting to create an image that is like, I don't know, like a space
Yeah.
that is completely legible, is just trying to translate something that I see in the real world,
Yeah.
and there's definitely a lot of sort of non-objective, um, they're in between in a way, but I think they're completely legible too.
Yeah. Well, I think that, again, I think the staircase idea is really interesting. Like, staircases go in multiple directions.
Exactly.
um, and if you're creating in a place that, and if you start to imagine an Escher type thing or some kind of modernist space, I mean, we've talked about people like Sophie Delaunay or Hannah Hawk, or, obviously that scaffolding can then go in many directions. And
Right.
what does it mean to be working with an idea and then finding it can break in all these different ways?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely like the staircases and the curves of somebody like Delaney. The staircases, and you're right, they're both like, they point towards like aspiring and climbing, but
Mm-hmm.
they also point towards like trying to divide things and like break a hierarchy.
Oh,
And
that's interesting.
you
Yeah.
can be descending as well as ascending, or it could be like one of those double helix staircases, where
Yeah, right.
pass by people and it becomes something social and you're just making eye contact
Yeah.
with fellow travelers. um but yeah, I think when I first started, and there's a decorative quality too in the kind of staircase shape that I like to use. And I love the word scaffolding as well. Like it's a really good sort of educational
Yeah.
word about, setting up something but not doing it for somebody else. It's like helping somebody reach the next level without doing it for them.
Well, that's interesting. Well, yeah, is that so? What does that mean as a maker?
Uh, I don't know what that means as a maker. But it's something I think a lot about as a teacher and as
Yeah.
a parent, that and as somebody who grew up in Gen X,
Yeah.
it's like this sort of thrill of doing things for yourself, but also sometimes you need scaffolding. Sometimes you're not going to reach the next level in a way that it might take you years to figure out
Mhm.
a way to just and then somebody in 1 minute can like show you something. So um so yeah, I don't know. Like I think it's a way of being that has to do with sharing for
Yeah.
me.
This painting is called The Architect's Daughters 2. Would you like to talk a little bit about how it came about, how you build a picture like this?
It came about over a few years, and I often start with some sort of abstract ground. Like I don't like working on a white canvas.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll make something to react to.
Mm-hmm.
And then at some point I found an old painting that I painted over that I was like, why did I do that? And I did it as a sort of the women in it, I think was taken from that. And in a lot of my images, there are women. They're not always clearly women, but walking together in camaraderie often. Sometimes they're striving. This painting is like is clearly a big city painting. I like thinking about the light in a city, how it comes from every direction, and how it also comes between people and things, and how cities are always in formation and being reconstructed, and the cracks and the scars. And I don't know, like I'm always thinking about Kirchner's women. I like kind of the themes of women in the city, or the modern woman, or the new woman, or there's a lot of genres that have to deal with like what it means to, and what is possible for a woman now, and so I don't know, in this moment I think it's open to many reads, but you don't know if they're being consumed or revealed. There's a kind of wallflowering that could happen, but there's also the excitement and the glamour, and obviously the isolation, like all these things that it's like to be in a city, atomization.
And this
Um,
work is kind of related. It's almost like a detail of the larger work.
yeah, but this one, it is related in obvious ways, but this one was more of a kind of resocialization painting for me. It also feels, I don't know, something about it feels a little bit more ancient. Like it's called the air we breathe, right?
Mhm.
Am I getting it right?
The air we share.
The air we share, sorry, yeah, the air we share. You know, and there's this kind of miasma, fog, breath around them. Maybe, yeah, they're, you know, in a different situation where they feel like they're not moving through the city, you know, they're not striding
Mhm.
the same way. Um, it feels a little bit more, well, no, they both have this kind of Eastern European,
Mhm.
both modernism and kind of peasant, you know, I like to call it shtetl, but you know.
Well, it is shtetl. It's absolutely shtetl. That's a huge
Yeah,
part of it for sure.
yeah. And I think some of that also is slightly autobiographical, not necessarily on purpose, but you know, something that comes through. I mean, it is on purpose because I let it stay,
Mhm.
but not. Yeah.
Well, and this is called the Orpheists. You said that one thing you were thinking about was your relationship to modernism, and we've touched on that a little bit.
Mhm. So yeah, so the Orphists, as probably many people know, were a group of modernist painters, the Delanays. They privileged color, but they were also a early cult group in Greek in I think it was in Greece. But you know, a very early kind of spiritual cult
Mhm.
that worshiped Orpheus. So yeah, I don't know. There's a definite kind of classicism to this painting. Um, but also something that feels uh I don't know, it doesn't feel like it was made then. I'm not trying to, you know, anyway, so
What about this amazing brushwork how does that kind of come about? How does the material application of the paint?
it's really just a case of the brush.
Mhm.
Call it a kiss. Yeah, I just one day started using, this was like in 2012-ish. I think I started making drawings where I started stamping using the paintbrush. And I have to kind of play with the paintbrush to get a mark I like.
Mhm.
But it'll last for a small series of brushes. And I like
Mhm.
the way that it looks like wood block.
Mhm. Well, your
So
paintings are interesting because I really obviously encourage people to see the show. Um, they feel very different in person than in reproduction. They're very readable in reproduction.
mhm.
But they have this fascinating kind of, I still never have been able to describe it, kind of depth and flatness at the same time in person that has to do with paint application. I mean, obviously composition, but the paint application is a big part of it, I think. Does that resonate with you at all?
It does. I mean, I love and I'm obsessed with, and I think, you know, color and mark making and, you know, touch, all the sort of human qualities of what makes, you know, one of the things that are so amazing about oil paint, is that it can just do so many things.
Yeah.
And I can't get over it. Like I just can't. And so, and I have kind of like an endless curiosity of like, how do you do that?
Yeah.
You know, when I see things in other paintings, and often still to this day, like I bump into things and I never feel like 100%. Every time I'm making a painting, it feels like I'm starting over.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if that's just my own psychology, but
Yeah.
if like I know a lot, but it also feels like something that's like endlessly new.
And how does that interact though with you leaving paintings around? It sounds like paintings kick around the studio. It sounds like you're responding to abstract grounds. How does all that feeling come together?
Uh, it's not something that there's a rhyme or reason, like it does it just through daily showing up every day,
Yes.
and
For sure.
I'm fond of this. I'm really proud of the show actually, but this one, the kind of blob in the center was, I wouldn't have ever imagined solving this painting this way, but
How did that come about?
it was a mistake. It was like a mistake, and I was about to wipe it out, pour a bunch of Gamsol on top of my painting and wipe it all out. And then I saw it and I said
Yeah.
I would never be able to I would never do that on purpose, you
Uh-huh.
know.
Why do you like it?
I like it because it's like colors that I wouldn't usually let stay. I don't know, like it's both confident and blobby at the same time, and
Huh?
it it is like an echo of the face. I don't know. It's one of those things.
Well, it's intriguing too, because, just looking at the 4 units, the interaction of space between them all is kind of interesting. Like you've got overlapping, which tells you certain things. You've got a kind of aerial perspective, which tells you other things. You have color intensity, which tells you other things.
Yeah.
In terms of locating that, that might be part of what I'm describing in terms of that experience of space in the work,
Yeah.
pictorial space.
It also this painting sat around in my studio for years. Unfinished. And it could have maybe been finished without the blob,
Yeah.
But but yeah.
This is a great one. This is a
Yeah.
great one. I love this painting.
This may have been the quickest resolved painting in my studio. There were no I don't think anything, everything that was painted was painted. There's like no erasure, no going back or anything.
Yeah.
It just, I had this brown canvas that I had painted, and then it might even mostly be tube color. Like I just started painting on it. And I think that like I had been thinking a lot about um talking about all the different kinds of aspects of modernism
Yeah.
that I'm allowing into the painting, and how they contradict each other. And um yeah, and thinking about like city and country, and like my own sort of travel from Texas to Rhode Island,
Yeah.
where I ended up, but not necessarily I mean, I like it here a lot. I'm having a wonderful time in Providence, but in some ways it's like I've just followed where things have taken me.
Sure.
But yeah, and to me it has like a kind of the sensibility is more of that you know modernists who were referencing both like architectonics and peasant,
Yeah.
sort of things. But this is also like, and also there's something that reminds me of maybe costume design and
Totally.
wallpaper, and yeah.
And there's a humor and a joy in it.
Hmm.
This is a painting also that we had a whole conversation about prior to the show.
Yeah. This one was a bunch of different paintings, and then again was this kind of grayish ground that almost looks terrazzo-y. um it definitely reveals more in person, but I've been doing a lot of drawings in my sketchbook that are just black and white
Mhm.
drawings, and it dawned on me that it might be a way to try to use that ground was to just make a line with one solid, it's not completely lined, but just to try to use one solid color. And And it was painted kind of in one, the top coat of the red was painted in one session.
We're getting towards the end here, so I'm going to roll through some paintings. Is there anything we haven't talked about that you might want to touch on?
I don't know. Not off the top of my head.
Well, it's a wonderful show. It's absolutely fantastic. This piece is called Parlor Games. I mean, the feeling of this is just beautiful. The feeling of this space, the interaction with these, it's awesome. The title is fantastic. Your titles are so good. And it's really been a great show. We're really delighted to have a chance to show it at the gallery. And as we get to the end here, there's a couple works on paper, which is also a big part of your practice.
Yeah, works on paper. I go through sort of month periods where I'm mostly making works on paper. And
I like your point that oil painting continues to fascinate you and you just can't give it up. And works on paper and liquid media seem to have have a similar kind of feeling for you.
They do. I mean, the paper, you know, I have a hard time giving up on any image, so I'll usually try to find a way to make something work.
That's interesting.
Coating it with gesso or redoing the whole thing, but the watercolor, as many people know, has it's a lot less forgiving than oil paint.
Yeah.
So, and I really try to at least leave some of the original kind of images, and even if I end up covering it with more sort of opaque paints.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of discovery in the works on paper, and I don't know, there's been times where I'm like, I could just watercolor the rest of my life.
Yes, of course.
Not for that like cliche, it's relaxing, because it's not necessarily relaxing.
Oh, no, it's not relaxing at all.
Yeah, it's not.
I mean, it's interesting because watercolor is very intimidating, because on the one hand, you have this idea that you got to protect the ground, and protect the white spaces. But in a lot of ways, it's a lot more rough and tumble than one might think it could be. It's just, you got to get into it to know these things, and you find things you don't know, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's true with anything.
Yeah.
But
more more yes, that's true of anything.
I mean, yeah, the more practice you have failing, the more you sort of realize it's just part of it.
Yes. Well, that is an amazing note on which to end this webinar. I am so thrilled for the show. I hope people can take the time to come. I really appreciate everyone coming out today to watch the thing. We have a nice crowd, and I hope that everyone is doing well and that everyone is safe and such. There's so many things going on, but personal expression to me continues to be a route to figuring these things out. Thanks for joining me today.
Yeah. Thanks so much for allowing me to make this body of work and show it. And thank you to everybody for showing up today.
It's wonderful. Okay. Talk to you later. Bye.